they do something called a sandwich program, for the engineering, right, Kishore? So we have heard about that. And sandwich program, in which the first 1 or 2 years, the engineering students, they learn the basics. And afterwards, one semester they spend in university, other semester they spent in the industry. So that way, the overall program from 4 years, it could go to 6 years. But in that 6 years, they have gained 2 years of experience. And the great thing for the students as well is that when they start coming to the industry, they start choosing the electives which are really useful for them to work, in the industry which they like to join. So that way, that program of the sandwich courses, sandwich programs have been great. And we actually spoke with the German consulate here. They wanted to try and work with the universities in India to introduce such sort of programs as well.
So very happy to see the fraternity here, and thank you very much for taking the time out and joining in. It's such a big privilege and a pleasure to reconnect with everyone, our distinguished panelists who are handpicked because of the think input and the rich experience that they bring in. And thank you to our distinguished audience for joining us. We've received close to 200 registrations, most of whom are CEOs, CXOs, and senior leaders. Many of them are our members and are repeat visitors to our webinars, which is very encouraging and motivates us to provide high levels of dialogue through the online channels as well. And for those of you who are new with us today, the BlueCircle is an exclusive community and ecosystem which is curated for leaders currently across 6 sectors, which are aerospace and defense, logistics, energy, e-mobility, real estate, and healthcare. And very soon we're adding 14 new sector communities to the platform to form the BlueCircle 20. We also present socioeconomic insights, which ultimately determine the evolving complexion of the market. And along with our weekly webinar series and our digital publication, you will be happy to know that we very recently launched the first version of the BlueCircle app, which is curated for leaders. It's somewhat like the sector-specific LinkedIn for senior leaders, a space to have meaningful conversations, connect with like-minded people, house high-quality curated content, and provide access to business opportunities across our core sectors. So those leaders among you who are interested, please do join us. I will share the link to the app in the chat section and soon send out invitations to our new guests post the webinar. And today, as part of our Skilling India series, we're privileged to have big minds and leading thinkers of the industry join in for our aerospace and defense communities discussion. The topic is Aerospace and Defence Workforce, Skilling for Today and Tomorrow. In the best interest of time, I will just briefly mention the names and designations of the panelists who are here with us today. We have with us Mr. Dhiraj Mathur, Independent Director and Senior Advisor, Strategy, Public Policy and Sustainable Infrastructure. Mr. Kishore Jayaraman, President, Rolls-Royce, India and South Asia. Wing Commander Rachit Bhatnagar, CEO, Aerospace and Aviation Sector Skill Council. Dr. Srinivasan, Dwarakanath, Mentor, Strategic Advisor, Aerospace and Aviation, and Adjunct Faculty at IISc and Visiting Faculty at IIM Bangalore. And the Chair and Moderator for the session is Mr. Pavan Choudary, who's a leading thinker on conflict and competition. He's a trustee with Bharatiya Videsh Niti Parishad, has written critically acclaimed books on Chanakya and Machiavelli, is also an angel investor and chairman with BlueCircle, and sits on several other boards across the country. Thank you very much, sirs, and thank you very much, our distinguished audience, for being here today. I now request Mr. Choudary to please chair and moderate the session.
Thank you very much, Siddharth, and thank you very much, panelists, as well as this informed audience, the numbers of who I'm seeing growing on the screen. Before we start, let me share with you the commitment of our fellow panelist, Mr. Dhiraj Mathur. He's there with us today. He's an ex-IAS officer, a distinguished thinker, presently on the advisory boards of the likes of PwC, and the list is quite long and illustrious too. He has joined us from a hospital because there is a surgery he's undergoing tomorrow. We thank you, Dhiraj ji, for this dedication and for honoring us through your presence, and honoring perhaps the content also which we bring to informed audiences like this, and how seriously you take it. May I request you to open your camera and say just a few words, express your wishes towards the audience, towards BlueCircle, nation at large, or towards your sector. Dhiraj Mathur ji.
Thank you very much, Pavan and BlueCircle, and my friends on the panel, Jayaraman and Dwarak. Good to be connected with you again. Unfortunately, I met with an accident yesterday, and I have to undergo surgery tomorrow. So, but I've given Pavan my commitment, and I'm just, lying in bed waiting for surgery. And I think this is far more interesting than just lying in bed and waiting. And it's a great sector, and it's a great topic also because if you unravel the idea of skilling India for today and tomorrow, bridging the gap between industry and academia, as you unravel it, you come to the core of the issue that so when you're talking of skilling, it's like something like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So just that at the very bottom level is a very low cost manufacturing, and right at the top, in between there's engineering, design, and so on, and right at the top is R&D. And if you look at this idea of initially it was Make in India, and now it's Atmanirbhar Bharat. So and if you see the philosophy or what it means for industry, what do these sort of aspirational goals mean for industry and for India? It's really about transitioning from a low cost competitive advantage to actually harnessing the huge human capital that India has, and getting into the top of the line, which is R&D, product design and development, which is where we need to be if we're going to talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat. At one level, Make in India is just about what has really been happening so far. You manufacture to print, but Atmanirbhar Bharat is something more than that. And I think when we're looking at trying to achieve that goal, we need to work all the way up from the bottom of the pyramid right up to the top. Now we have, with us Kishore and Dwarak, who have tremendous perspectives on both the civilian and the defense side of aerospace and defense, and they will share their wonderful ideas based on their great experience. But the only point that I want to make really is that if we are looking at India from today and tomorrow, the industry, the aerospace and industry, we really need to be looking at improving our capabilities and adding capacity all the way from the bottom to the top of the pyramid. So with that, Pavan, I'll hand it back over to you and the others, and I will go on mute and switch off the camera, but I will be listening to the interesting discussions. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Dhiraj. You honor us and you show us what a patriotic Indian, and you display the commitment of a general or a soldier, I should say. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So let me also just quickly thank the many people who have sent their questions, their many informed questions. Shreyas, Bhardwaj, Manasa, John Wesley, Anand Shankar, Srinivasan, Suryanarayan, Madhusudan S, Vishwanathan, Thayil, Naresh Chandra Sharma, and Vijay Kumar and Prateek Singh. They are all founders or CEOs, or one of them is a IIT professor. So we will surely try to answer these questions in the course of this talk. And we will also have a question and answer session and try to answer as many questions as possible after the first talk is over. So coming to a little bit of an update in the opportunity and tying the thread from our previous discussions to this one. The formation of AUKUS and the last United Nations General Assembly meeting and the meetings which happened alongside these meetings have added a new chapter in geopolitics and also in geocommerce. The Quad, as some informed experts have said, and our defense minister also has perhaps tacitly agreed, was a place to dither, was a place which avoided you from going into a hostile commitment against China. So all the nations in the Quad, except US, were circling on the tarmac, not wanting to be the first to announce hostility. Not because India is the India of yesterday, where we felt कि आगे रहने वाली गाय को शेर खाता है. That means the animal which leads the herd is eaten by the lion. No, we are no longer like that. But because committing yourself in hostility crimps your strategic options. That is why we were dithering. That is why also we have not named China as a hostile actor in Galwan Valley. Many of my friends from media have strongly objected to this, and I do not at all accept their objection because it was wise not to name China. You don't commit yourself. And similarly, I also did not agree with those friends, and this is a little bit of a digression, but it is pertinent. Those friends in the media who objected to our Prime Minister calling Barack Obama by his first name, Barack. I feel it was high time. And he was perhaps the first Prime Minister of India who started interacting with other world leaders, at least informally, just the way they were interacting with him, rather than following some other prime ministers of India who even went to the extent of taking an autograph from the President of the United States of America, which was not becoming. However, this doesn't mean that we do not, as accountable citizens, as responsible citizens, keep our government accountable. We also critique our Prime Minister. But right now, he deserves a lot of applause because the world of random offshoring is finishing. The world of friendshoring is taking birth. Friendshoring, as you know, means trading with those countries with who you share similar political dispensation, similar market system, political dispensation like democracy, market system like free market, a shared history of peace. And these are the bonds, or these are the parameters which will decide who you will trade with and who you will not trade with. The West and Japan also require some country in India from where they can import software and hardware, and they don't have to worry with any bugs which may be implanted there, malwares. They also need a country where manufacturing can happen and their rights, IP rights and other rights can be protected. And that country should be able to stand up to their biggest rival in Asia, which is China. India is fitting all those bills. And through the maneuver which you have seen, which has happened in the last few months, and particularly in the last few weeks, we are in a very advantageous position. Billions of dollars of FDI should be coming in various sectors. You are already seeing these footsteps of such investment and joint ventures in the Tata Airbus deal for C295. We have Dwarakanath today with us, who has led Airbus in the country, and I'm sure he will have some light to throw on such joint ventures. We have the Rolls-Royce and HAL joint venture for engines, for marine engines. And we have Kishore Jayaraman with us, who will look forward to listening to more about this from. So whether it is US, UK, France, Israel, or Russia, all of these countries are aligning with us, including the last. Friend-shoring options are going to increase. So opportunities of manufacturing here are going to increase. Skilling will become very important. There is also enhanced encouragement and support on exports. Exports have gone up by 700% in the last 2 years. Defense attaches are also contributing in advocating for exports of defense items from India. There is a negative import list which has been made. We know that you're an informed audience, and we will nuance all these claims as we go forward if that is required. And in our previous discussions, we have nuanced these claims. Then there is pressure on complying with offset clauses. So India is likely to import $100 billion of aerospace and defense equipment in the next 10 years. $30 billion of that will be the offset opportunity created. So the opportunity is really growing, and the horizon seems very, very potential. On that note, let me come to the perimeter of the discussion. So this discussion on skilling, we have agreed among the panelists, we will try to bring in insights from the 3 subsectors which aerospace and defense sector is composed of. Aircrafts and components, that means aircraft manufacturing and right up to repairs and maintenance. Space, military and other transportation, that means guided missile and space vehicles, military armored vehicles and other transportation equipment. And last is radars and weapons, land, naval, airborne and even space-based. So this is the broad perimeter we'll talk about, or we'll talk within. Then the types of skill required. What are the various types of skills which are required? We'll begin with that. We will go to a skill gap analysis, discipline-wise, zone-wise, level-wise. And how can this gap be filled for today and for tomorrow? We have with us an enlightened panel, including Wing Commander Rachit Bhatnagar, who doesn't need an introduction. Let me, on that note, start with my friend Dwarakanath and ask him, what is the spectrum of skills which is required in, let us say, aerospace, Dwarka?
Thank you, Pavan, for your kind introduction there. Before I jump into the skills, I just want to augment what you said in terms of opportunities. Actually, aerospace opportunity, both for globally as well as in India, there is going to be a tremendous opportunity after the COVID. So currently, due to COVID, things have been looking down a bit. If you look at civil, for example, I always like this statement, which our head of sales used to say, every 15 years, air traffic doubles, on the passenger side. In the last 10 years, at least from 2010 to 2018, India saw a tremendous growth, in terms of the passenger traffic. But now, with COVID, the passenger traffic has gone down. But I think we are hoping that in 2022, 2023, things will look up, especially on the domestic sector and the regional transport, which then slowly but steadily help the aerospace industry and the aerospace supply chain as well, including that in India as well. So slowly, things will look up. And coming back to the defense side, as you already touched upon, C295, this is a great deal for India. This is also a great deal for Airbus, and Tata. And this is the first time, a private company has been given the opportunity to really fully make the aircraft in India. So I will not go into the details of how many will be made in India and how many will come in a flyaway condition. It's all there in the newspapers. But personally, I feel this is a great opportunity and is an example Make in India project, where a complete aircraft will be done. And secondly, this would really help, the Indian aerospace ecosystem, because this would be the first time we would be making such a modern aircraft in India, right from one end, from the raw material till it goes into the service. So that's a great opportunity, not only for defense, but also for the civil supply chain, because many of them from the civil aerospace supply chain will participate in this particular program. And that will really open up and develop a robust supply chain for the future. Just to add to your preamble there, Pavan, in terms of the opportunities. But coming back to the skills itself, what I would like to do is really on the skills side, I would look at the skills across the product life cycle. And if I ask Siddharth to just show the slide, Siddharth, without clicking, So, and if you look at the life cycle of the aircraft, you could see that on one side, the concept, design development, that's really the initial parts, up till the design of the aircraft, moving towards manufacturing, assembly, flight test, entry into service. That's predominantly the big phase where the aircraft gets manufactured and assembled and delivered to the customer. And then obviously on the right, you would see the services and the life extensions and retirements as well. So, if we go into the skills in each of these phases, and I'm going to do it at a very high level. If we can go into the details, at a later stage in the Q&A, if necessary. So if you do one click, Siddharth, so if you look at it on the concept design development, this is where I think the research, on the top level aircraft requirements, all your aerodynamics, your architecture, all your weight studies, your concept studies, all this gets done. And when it comes to development, you go into the detailed design, really, making your data for manufacturing. So that's the sort of, activities which happen here. And if you look at the bottom part, of the slide, you see the skills there. Of course, you need people on the research side, but mainly the design architects. You need specialists. You need guys coming from sales as well. Those who are really promising the top level aircraft requirements there. And then getting into the designers. When it comes to designers, you will have people who know structures, who need to know electrical, you need to know systems, so you have embedded software, and then comes the supply chain specialist here, who need to come in. The importance of supply chain in a civil aircraft is that 80% of what an OEM sells to the customer, they buy from the supply chain. I just want to repeat that. 80% of what they sell to the customer, they buy from the supplier. So supply chain is an important part of the overall aircraft industry, to do that as well. So that's why we need those guys there as well. And in the development, obviously, you have designers of different types, including jigs and tools design. So this is where I would say this is predominantly what you would call as white collar job. All right. So if you click the next one, please, Siddharth. This is, a manufacturing, assembly, flight test, predominantly this is a blue collar job. And you can see on top, the type of activities. Here you're looking at detailed parts, you're looking at sub-assemblies, you're looking at tooling setups. And on the right side, when you look at the assembly, MCA standing for major component assemblies, you have the final assembly lines, then the testings, and then you deliver to the customer. So if you look at the bottom part of the slide, clearly, you need people, the blue collar workers in terms of machinists, electricians, or welders, technicians of all type. Here also, it's very important to have procurement people in terms of procurement operations, ensuring that all the suppliers are delivering your detailed parts and assembly. So that's the sort of, apart from the assembly operators and the assembly tool operators, you would need procurement guys as well. And then obviously for flight tests, entry into service, you need test pilots, you need the test engineers, you need the air traffic controllers, certification people, so all of them there. Predominantly, this phase is blue collar. And the next one, the services, and if you go into lifetime life extensions and retirement, here again, I'm only covering from an OEM, that is original equipment manufacturer like Airbus or Boeing. What they do, they support the airlines, in the services. And then clearly they also look at, in terms of life extensions, whether there is a need for a midlife extension for the aircraft, or looking at recycling or reusing of the parts. So that's, again, we need people blue collar as well as white collar there. So what here I have looked at is only the product life cycle of an aircraft, and at the bottom, as you can see, I've not touched upon aviation, in terms of the airlines, what skills are needed, and also airports, that would need different sets of skills as well. But above all, we would require soft skills across aircraft manufacturing, aviation, and airports. And each one of them, is a topic in itself, for us to discuss. So just to summarize there, Pavan, in terms of skills, definitely we need the white collar skills coming out of the universities. You have the blue collar skills across the product development coming out from technical institutes like ITIs and other training institutions as well. And then obviously, you need the air traffic controllers and those types of people as well, who have specialized training programs, especially the pilots and other things as well. So I'd probably summarize that and then give it back to you, Pavan.
Great points. And by showing this slide, you have shown the spectrum of skills which are required: white collared in the space of design, concept, and development.
Yeah.
And blue collared in the space of real manufacturing or assembling, tooling, and then the services piece also. Yeah. So if one was to see, you require high caliber design and engineering skills in the first. Then you require mechanical and electrical and electronic skills in the second. In the first, you may require some composite skills also. IT and ITES skills also in the second. And in the third, you require, again, a lot of midlife extension and other skills in maintenance and service.
Absolutely. There are some specialized skills in the last sector, including the pilot, test pilots, and air traffic controllers and others. But predominantly, I think white collars, blue collars, and towards the end, you will have a mixture of white and blue collars as well. That's how I would characterize the overall aircraft product development. But again, that's just a 50,000 feet sort of view. But when you go into details, then you can go into each one of them, and because each one is a specialized curriculum in itself.
Exactly. So one more point which comes through from your slide is the system integration. You need a lot of system integration because you spoke about procurement several times. That means defense primes who are manufacturing the aircraft are actually system integrators, because 80% of that is coming from different places. And today I was happy to note that Boeing has started procuring one of its critical aviation component from a Tamil Nadu based MSME, Aerospace Engineering Private Limited. Great. on that note, let me go to Kishore and then I will go to Rachit.
Okay.
So, Kishore, what would you like to add to what Dwarka has said on the spectrum of skills which is required? If you feel that he has exhausted that topic, then let us come to what is the skill gap analysis.
I'll
Sure.
move on to the skill gap analysis. I don't think we can beat Dwarka at the details. I've always found myself stumped by Dwarka when it comes to the details. So, it's a pleasure to be with you all here. Thank you very much, Pavan. Good to see you, Dwarka. And I hope you get well soon, Dhiraj. And, pleasure to be here with you all. Look, when I looked at this topic, it's a topic that keeps coming up every time in every seminar, any panel. And the discussion is always around how do we optimize? And I would say, how do we skill? Because in my view, we've already been down that path. And I think we all know about the skilling piece, and we know how important it is, how important all these things are going to matter if you're going to build India to the $5 trillion GDP that we want us to be. And, in that light, I just wanted to talk about three things. Number one is Rolls-Royce, a little bit, so that I set the perspective. And then second one is to talk about the past, present, and future in terms of skilling. And the third is to give an opinion about what has worked for us best and what can work for India as we move forward. Point number one, in terms of Rolls-Royce, as for many of you who know and don't know, we have three businesses: civil aerospace, defense, and power systems. Power systems is a reciprocating engine business. And the good thing about that business is that it's short cycle, but it also, operates in the defense space. We power the Coast Guard vessels, we power the frigates, destroyers, submarines, and we also have backup power, and we have microgrids and other solutions. But we're going to stay with the civil aerospace side and the defense side for the day in terms of skilling. And now I'll switch over with this very brief introduction about Rolls-Royce. Now, for us, when we look at skills, we have in India, our presence, we have about 1,000 people. And we have engineering primarily. That's been our forte, that's been our bread and butter, that's been being a technology company. And then we have built our supply chain over the years. We have about 750 million pounds of commitments in India over the next 10 years with various potential as well as already existing suppliers. So Tata's are there with us, Bharat Forge is there with us, Choudary is there with us. And we continue to search and work with many others. Now, when you look at joint ventures, we have two of them, one in Pune and the other one in Bangalore. And both of them are doing extremely well. And it's, we have a lot of need for very, highly skilled people, whether it be high-end engineering work, or it be blue-collar workforce in the factories, or it be the life cycle management of our products in India. And in all these three different spaces, the skill requirements are very different. And I'll just pick on one just to throw some light as to what we've been looking at. If you look at Bangalore and our joint venture with HAL, we've been able to recruit a lot of engineers. And they come with a lot of capability, they come with a lot of talent, ambition. But what we found missing was that, all these things had to be funneled in and channeled in to a point where we are able to leverage the best out of it, right? Increasing the efficiencies and the productivities. And if we go across sectors, whether it's aerospace and defense or any sector, I think the need is for raw talent, or it's like raw diamond, uncut diamonds, polish them, finish them, get them to where we want them to be. So it is not something that industry can ever shun and say that we don't have the talent. I think we have the talent. We have an abundance of talent, as a result of which we have to pick and choose what's the best talent for us. Now, is it enough? Are there enough people that are good? I still think that there's a lot more we can do that can be better. A lot more has been done. So when you look at the past, we all learned about basic knowledge in physics or chemistry or mathematics, and that includes me as well. But today, when you look at it, there's a lot more of applied education that is also there. And so applied education is absolutely important if India is going to move forward, whether it be aerospace and defense or any other sector. And in the aerospace and defense sector, it's going to be extremely important because it is absolutely essential that we keep ahead of the curve every step of the way. For that, we want people who have the ability to think. And for people who want to think, they should have practical knowledge, which means that our education portfolio should not only include theoretical knowledge, we should have a lot more practical knowledge. And with that background now, so that's the present, we are looking at a lot of these things, but it's not going to get okay overnight. What we are missing in a lot of ways is to enhance that innovative capabilities, to enhance that R&D. There's got to be a lot of cooperation happening between academia, industry, and government. You know, in whether it be the US or whether it be UK or Germany, the government creates a platform, creates funding, creates programs. These programs are worked on by the industry and are worked on by the academia together. And there is a lot of interaction. For example, Rolls-Royce in the US, we work very closely with Purdue University. When you come to the UK, we will work very closely with many universities. Totally, around the world, we work with 37 universities every year towards our research and development, as well as towards our existing products, the innovation technologies. We work on many different things with universities. Now, what happens is the talent that's in the universities learning also become very close with industry, that when they join the industry, they don't have such a long and big learning curve. That has worked for us very well, right? The second piece of things is we have interns. Internship is a great thing. In India, it's also picking up a lot of steam. A lot of universities are pushing in every different stream internships, which is practical knowledge. When I was growing up, they called it practical knowledge, and I had to go to the lab, and I had to forge, I had to cast, I had to do all these different things as a mechanical engineer. But today's world, it's about going into a factory and making sure that you see the whole cycle of the product, you see the manufacturing process, you're able to integrate your mind into that, come back, maybe write a dissertation, a thesis. There's a lot more interaction that has started to happen. Is this enough? No. The next step is, how do we create products in India? And how do we leverage academia and the industry to participate in future products creation? Today, we're very good. And Airbus's new C295 aircraft with Tata's is a classic example of what we're able to achieve to make stuff. The next thing I think we have to do is to create our own stuff. Can we do that? I mean, ISRO is a classic example, right? And BARC is another classic example. It's not like we don't have the talent who can really invent stuff or can innovate stuff. It is just that a burning platform has to be created for them, or a platform has to be created for them to move forward. And I think that's the space that we are very keen on. And we want to co-create our products and technologies with India, with the universities in India, with the talent here, along with everything that is there in the UK or the US. Now, if you're able to achieve that space, then you create a lot more enthusiasm, interest, and you create an ecosystem for yourself. And that ecosystem includes skilled talent. And I think, at the end of the day, I was just looking up here and, Pavan, you had mentioned something about the joint ventures. Joint ventures is a classic case of collaboration between two partners. And it's never going to work unless both partners share a common vision. And similarly, I think skilling is something that we all know has to happen at different levels. But for skilling actually to happen, it has to be a very collaborative effort between academia, industry, and the government. And I'm sure we'll continue to talk about this more with time, but I'll stop here right now and give the podium back to you.
Great points. And I also noticed that in your joint venture with HAL, you have achieved that common vision or large-heartedness that you have left the IPs in the custody of the Indian partner. That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Coming to Wing Commander Rachit Bhatnagar. Rachit, let me amplify one of the notes which Kishore made about the quality of talent. And let me look at it from discipline-wise and level-wise. Let us look at it first level-wise. So there are 3,500 engineering colleges in India, 16.7 lakh engineers churned out every year. And we produce more engineers than US and China every year. However, reports after reports are saying that only 8% of our engineers are employable in core areas. That is mechanical, electrical, civil, and chemical. IISc, in its infinite wisdom, after its studies, has decided to reduce this number by 40%. This is the first level, which is the white collar or the engineer level. Let us go to the blue collar level. There are 12,000 ITIs in the country, and they are training welders, they are training electricians, sheet metal workers, plastic processing workers, etc. However, when you do a field study, you realize that most of the electricians and plumbers, only 5% of them have been trained in ITI or have been trained vocational. They have learned things on the job. That means education has not happened. They picked up the trade through somebody who already knew it. So this is where I would like to begin analyzing what is the skill gap, not so much in numbers, but in quality and how it can be bridged. First of all, your assessments on the skill gaps and its nature, and then we will come to how it can be bridged. Rachit.
Yeah. Thank you, Pavan, for making a brief note about regarding the skill gaps on the engineering front and the blue collar ITA level. So basically, I would start like this. First of all, that I represent an organization called Aerospace and Aviation Sector Skill Council, which is basically has been conceptualized under the Skill India ecosystem for bridging the skill gap in both the aerospace and aviation sector. And in this regard, of course, we have seen over last 4 to 5 years, there has been quite a traction of various job roles in the aviation sector, because that has been more glamorous, I would say. And because aviation is in the front end, so the people are drawn towards the what is seen, and they get attracted to that firstly. The aerospace is the background, starts from the whole spectrum of what Dr. Dwarka also showed in the whole life cycle of the skills, the systems, the MRO and the manufacturing assembly and the design and development. So over the course of this years, what we've seen, we had a skill gap analysis which was done. It's quite dated now, but 4 to 5 years back by our one consultant. And we found that when they went to the complete ecosystem of the district level and the regional level, complete districts and the school level everywhere, or the industries, when they also found out, they have taken some 90 job roles. Out of the 60% of the job roles were the aerospace specific. The complete ecosystem of right from the if you start with aerospace manufacturing and assembly, right from the aerospace jigs and jig assembly, the aerospace welder and as aerospace electrician, the CNC programmer and machinist, it goes on to the complete aerospace composite technician, composite repair and everything. But we have over the years seen that there have been some policies which have been there in the system, which has, if you see the Kishore has taken the name of the biggest aerospace PSU, and which we also have been promoted by HL only. There has been a different kind of hiring in the HL. So and they go by some standards of hiring in which they go for first apprenticeships. So like what Kishore has mentioned, firstly the internship is one of the phenomena which has been catching up right now. But what I would like to advocate out here is there's one government scheme called National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme. This is a scheme in which we encourage the ITI level or even the engineering level persons to come out and straight away get the culture of the industry. So they get enrolled, they get a stipend from the government. So when they seep into the system and see the whole ecosystem of learnings, I would say, they get totally culturally fit on the organization, and then they are the people who also tend to get employed or preferred by the employer. So in this regard, I would say we have around 40 to 50 job roles on the aerospace specific, and which we align them to a national skill qualification framework. In the entry level, we have NSF level 3, 4, 5, and when we go above, we have on the design and development side 5 and 6, in which the engineering students fit in. All right. So this is how the system works in our ecosystem, and I would say that what we are presently harping upon is on the rationalization study. So because this study has been slightly dated, we are now trying to harp in to get it revisited, in the sense that all the industry 4.0 job roles which are coming now on the various level, like I would say the additive manufacturing, not only the polymer additive manufacturing, 3D printing, or even the metal 3D printing. Because going forward, we are going to have, when the MRO industry is going to boom up, we would like to manufacture the components in the backyard. It is not that we rely on the big and complex supply chain from the abroad. Internet of Aircraft Things. We have an IoT, and related to that, we have all this, the new technology of the machine learning, Internet of Aircraft Things, and so we are revisiting our qualification packs in alignment with the industry requirement. So that is one a big task is going on right now at Aerospace and Aviation Sector Council. Besides, there have been some queries in the chat box. I would like to address them also. The new and upcoming technologies in the drone sector. Okay, this is something which is booming up. On the ridership of the new drone rules of 2021, recently, just last month, which has been announced, we also have although a very small portion, maybe only 120 crores, but that has been dedicated for the production linked incentive schemes for the drone complete ecosystem of the manufacturing, the components, and even the software manufacturing. This is one more area in which we also, the participants, or the new entrants should get aligned and enter. It's not only the aviation specific, but the drone is also now coming into the complete ecosystem of aviation and aerospace.
Great.
So with this, I would like to end and hand over to Pavan again, and then we can take it to the next level.
No, thank you very much. You're doing a lot of work in the Sector Skill Council, and I compliment you on that. Coming to Dwarka. Dwarka, recently Mohandas Pai said that our engineers, only 8% of them are employable in the industry, and many of them are becoming Uber and Ola drivers. Mm-hmm. And then he held fast on that position. We have also read recently that many doctors and engineers have applied for the post of constables in Maharashtra. That means there is somewhere a quality issue here. And unless we will acknowledge it, we will not be able to remedy it. So I would like you to comment on what is it that is required in the industry academia space to improve our quality of skill exchange, which these universities provide or colleges provide. Okay. Let me start with that with you, and then we'll move forward. Dwarka.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Pavan. That's a really important question, actually, to address. And what I would do is I would first talk about the quantity and quality, which Wing Commander also spoke about. Incidentally, Wing Commander, I was very interested to see in the Aerospace Aviation Skill Council in your website, you had listed 72 aerospace skills. Ashok Saxena, I think, was working on that. And that's an impressive one, I must say. And anybody wants to look at the skills can look at it. Of course, that needs a little bit of updating with the modern skills, as you talked about, but that's a good starting point anyway. I think that's well done. Coming to the quantity itself, Pavan, I think we were recently looking at it at NASSCOM, slightly at an engineering R&D level, but that makes sense here as well, is that in terms of the people who can, the talent on engineering and R&D, even though India produces a lot of engineers, we are still behind US and China. If you look at it, the current, today, ER&D demand is about 900,000, people, whereas, that's the talent we have is 900,000, whereas the demand is 1.2 million plus. So it's about 25 to 30%. There is a gap, that's on the quantity itself. There is that gap which we need to look at. And if you look at between 2021 to 2030, the projections are that our the demand will grow at a 13.2% CAGR, whereas the supply will only grow at 9.7, which means that where the gap of 25 to 30% is going to increase in 2030. That's the other challenge which we will need to face. And I think this is where it is extremely important. I think Kishore was touching on this point, that we really need to attract more women and more people from tier 2 and tier 3 cities and universities to come into aerospace, because diversity and inclusion is the key for innovation as well, which increases the quality of what we are doing. When it comes to the quality aspect itself, yes, I think, Mohandas Pai mentioned that, and a study for NASSCOM, which was done recently, says that, only 12% of the STEM graduates can be employable in the industry. So these are all alarming figures. And on the other side, today we are at 5 to 6% of the global ER&D services. We really, get that in India. And our aim is to really grow that to about 10%. If we really want to do that, something systemic has to happen, which comes back to the industry, academia. I will also add the government in that equation. Industry, academia, and government. How do we really, look at these three stakeholders in that? And my recent association with the university, that's one of the areas I'm looking at. If you look at it already, in many of the tier 1 universities, the engineering education, the curriculum is seen as something very close to what the industry needs. Whereas if you look at the tier 2 and tier 3 universities on STEM, there is a big gap and it needs to be completely revamped in terms of the curricula itself. And also there needs to be some complex, simple, medium, and complex courses introduced so that people can be ready both for engineering as well as for aerospace itself. What I would say is that, some things can be done in the sense that every tier 1 university should adapt a tier 2 or a tier 3 university to really work very closely to work on the curriculum itself. So that really helps them to bring them to the right level. That's one of the proposals I would make. And secondly, which we really need is that industry academia collaboration, is that every aerospace company, which has about 500 to 1,000 people in India, I can even extend that to engineering companies, should adapt a tier 2 or a tier 3 university really to help them to bridge that industry academia gap itself. So that's something we need to do, and that's where the government policies can come in, to do that itself. But beyond that, we can actually take some of the good practices which we see in countries like UK, France, and Germany, and things like that. In UK, I know it's, I spent some time there, and Kishore knows that as well. Rolls-Royce, Airbus, they do something called a sandwich program, for the engineering, right, Kishore? So we've heard about that. And sandwich program, in which the first 1 or 2 years, engineering students, they learn the basics. And afterwards, one semester they spend in university, other semester they spent in the industry. So that way, the overall program from 4 years, it could go to 6 years. But in that 6 years, they have gained 2 years of experience. And the great thing for the students as well is that when they start coming to the industry, they start choosing the electives which are really useful for them to work, in the industry which they like to join. So that way, that program of the sandwich courses, sandwich programs have been great. And we actually spoke with the German consulate here. They wanted to try and work with the companies, or universities in India to introduce such sort of programs as well. That's the first thing. The second thing on the industry academia side is the extended industry experience. And this is what they do in France, for example. See, for a 4-year program like engineering, a student has to go through 2 6-month industry experience, which means that at the end of second year, they take a 6 months. And again, this gives them a flavor of the industry, what is looked for in the industry. So accordingly, they can actually fine tune what they want to do in the remaining 2 years. And that again, in the third year, they do another 6 months, or end of fourth year, they do that. So at least that sort of bridges the gap, and they can then go back to the same company where they did that experience. Or if they don't like that, they go somewhere else. That's the second one I would suggest that we need to really look at. The third one is the apprentice program. Already Kishore touched on, and Wing Commander touched on that as well. So that's really, we need to reinforce that, and people do join in India, the apprentice program, but sometimes the industry is really not taking that fully forward, in the sense that people join at the age of 18 and as an apprentice. In many of the companies in UK, in Airbus or in Rolls-Royce, I've seen that people continue, they do their engineering, a bachelor's program, even they do their masters as well. They have the opportunity to do that. Whereas here, that type of thing, rarely happens. So that's something which we need to encourage. So sandwich program, extended industry experience, and then this apprenticeship program as well. The last thing is that, it's interesting to see, if you look at India, the number of people who do, masters and PhDs, from the graduates, it's only 13% and 2% respectively. If you look at, among the top 9 countries, which we are looking at, and if you look at Germany, it's like 31% and 7%, so really, even in tier 1 universities, there needs to be augmented to attract the people of higher learning as well. So these are some of the things which I'm personally looking at because of this university academic relationship. But I think we need to really look at, along with the government, to really bring these policies together to close the gap, in order to be able to capture the opportunities we will get in the years to come. Back to you, Pavan.
Great points. And I think you've covered it very comprehensively. I would just like to add that teacher quality will surely improve if the tier 1 institutes start taking guardianship.
Absolutely.
Because that is a very, very weak area in tier 2 and tier 3 institutes. The second is the infrastructure piece, which also needs to be improved, because many of these tools, like Kishore was saying, he learned these things, the forging, etc., in the lab. So there are cognitive skills which are related to literacy and numeracy, technological and vocational skills which are related to tools and methods, and softer skills. The second piece, the technological and vocational skills which are related to tools and methods, need the right infrastructure also of training. And the last point which I would like to add to your very comprehensive exposition is the socio-cultural pecking order. Now, a European company recently, which is into the welding space, has really tried to improve the status of welders by creating competitions, by bringing in women as welders, by busting certain myths around welding, that this can really harm your body, etc. So that is also very much required, because somewhere vocational education in India is seen for the losers. For those who could not do well in studies in school, let us go send them to ITI, let them do a certificate course after their 10th or 11th. And if this kind of a social metric prevails, then these skills are not so exciting or these careers are not so exciting because the social value system is going against taking up those things. And I'm reminded of a very beautiful quote which said something like, if you will only value philosophy and look down upon plumbing or such vocations, then very soon your philosophies as well as your pipes will not hold water. And that is what is happening in this, our society. We perhaps have some kind of a stigma around those jobs which soil our clothes, which dirty our hands, and we have to somehow get out of it. And companies like yours, like the ones which you've worked for, as well as where Kishore Jayaraman is, Kishore Jayaraman is leading, can help, like this European company is trying to do, to dispel the stigmas around such jobs. On that note, let me ask. Sorry.
Pavan, sorry, on that point, it needs to start right from the primary school itself, in terms of the overall understanding and what is being done, how it's perceived and other things. Just if I quickly add to the point what you said about the teachers and their quality itself, even in the tier 1 universities, there is one lack of quantity, and sometimes in terms of industry knowledge, lack of quality there itself. Because one of the things that we were discussing the other day is really to have a program in which some of these teachers can go to the industry. It's still like the reverse mentoring, like for them to go and do a sort of an internship, so that they can come back and really understand what is being looked at, at the industry as well. So back to you, Pavan.
No, very right. In fact, just give me 30 seconds and I'm coming to you, Kishore, and then or let me come to Rachit first. Let me come to Rachit. Rachit, go ahead. You raised your hand.
Yeah, just to continue on the note what you left on this industry academia industry gap, I would like to sensitize the environment out here, the audience out here. There are two things which are coming up, which we need to focus on and do it. So the things are happening on the ground. Let me tell you. First thing is there is a program called Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. This program is not taking the faculty or the teachers or the students to the industry. The industry is in fact coming to the schools. So under this program, what is happening is under the new education policy 21, which is now in the completely getting implemented in a full swing, in a full full stream, I would say. So what is happening is in this vocationalization of the school education is happening, which was long awaited. And in this program, there are 3 groups. The introductory vocational education, some kind of very aspirational skills, or will be introduced from standards 6 to 8. Then there is a group of 9th and 10th, and then 11th and 12th. So what is happening is like even for aviation and aerospace, we are a completely ecosystem of 36 sector scale councils representing each industry sector, right from beauty and wellness to plumbing to automobile to agriculture and all the industry sectors. The point you told, Pavan, is completely right. If the plumbing is being looked down upon, or the domestic worker is being so they are being renamed, then selling in the revised package. So it has been even thought of the stalwarts of the plumbing people who are managing the industry. They're even telling to make it called water management to look better. Okay, the domestic worker can be called as a caregiver. So those kind of renaming also is planned, so that all these skills are adopted at the young age of 6 to 8 and then 8 to 9. So we have a qualification packs which we call it as the job roles. These qualification packs of a national skill qualification framework, NSQF level 3 and 4, we are telling it to get introduced at 9th and 10th level, and NSQF level, higher level, may be adopted by the 11th and 12%. So that when they come out with a good level of credits, because the NEP is telling them to make, create the credits. So they'll be, quite aspirational. And then the industry, the 10th class dropout or 12th class dropout, when they're coming out with the credits and the certification from the Skill India program, the industry will be more than willing to take them. They already have acquired skills. That is one thing. Secondly, I just want to take you to a different level. I want to take you to the level of the ITIs. So what is happening is, there are so many ITIs you told, the numbers 12,000 and everything. There's so many private ITIs also. But till now, I would try to focus back on the aerospace and defense environment. There have been hardly any A&D skills which have been taught there. One model program what has been started is, in fact, I would say one or two which has been started. Government of Karnataka has done a collaboration with Tata Technologies Limited, TTL. It's a program, I would say, of their aim is to make 11 long-term courses and 23 short-term courses specifically on the aerospace and defense skills in the ITIs. 150 ITIs have been chosen, and the infrastructure is being built at the turnkey level, or the turnkey space. They're going to start immediately commissioning in by October, by the next month. It is like, center of excellence on the aerospace and defense with the ITIs. Till the time, what he was doing, a normal welder or normal turner, normal machinist, he is going to upgrade them for a aerospace level or niche level of skilling, upgrading it to that level, making them manufacture at the aerospace skill 9100D. That is the latest quality standards. They will be manufacturing in that level. Similar programs is being started at the 2 defense industrial corridor of aerospace. One is in Tamil Nadu, having 6 nodal centers, 6 districts, and similar in the UP defense industrial corridors. Both are having 3,100 crores and 3,700 crores level of investment by the government to create the complete aerospace and defense ecosystem. So this is the program which is going to spread pan-India, 100 to 150 to 200 ITIs, depending on the numbers. The common ITIs are being identified, where the specific technology center of excellence are being planned for only the A&D. This is the level at which we are now implementing the things on the ground level. This is just 2 inputs I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Great points. Excellent points. You have added value and provided new information on the IISc, which has started, I think, moving very aggressively in the aerospace and defense sector, because such sector skill training centers are there in the private sector, and you are also saying that they are in ITIs, maybe the government owned or the private owned. Very good. Coming, Kishore, to you, how can we glamorize the skill, the blue collar skills, which we spoke of? How can we bring those skills to global standards? These are the 2 points I would request you to dwell on. How your company is trying to bring those skills to global standards, and how can the blue collar skills be glamorized? I believe, Siddharth, there are some questions. Somebody has raised his hand. I'll just come to him in a moment. Yeah, go ahead, Kishore.
Thank you, Pavan. Look, it's not an easy journey to say glamorize a skill, right? At the end of the day, it's a shame that any skill should be, first of all, unglamorized. I don't know the exact term for it, but okay. The issue is when, Wing Commander was speaking about it, he mentioned something which I made a note of, saying, branding of skills is happening where the pay drops down because they think it's not a great profession to be in. I would have thought of it very differently, right? I mean, I would have thought of it and said that if the skills don't exist enough in the market, the price of that particular skill will go up. So that's a first starting point. If a plumber's job is seen as not so great, I'm just picking on the plumber, and the plumber's job is not seen so great, and not many people don't develop that skill, we're going to have a shortage, and there's 1.4 billion people who are relying on the needs of a plumber, indirectly or directly. So to me, first of all, I think this whole concept of the importance of one skill to another skill, white collar versus blue collar, ITI versus university, at the end of the day, you can only eliminate those biases if there is a very clear path through every single specialized study leading towards a job. Some jobs pay more than others. And like I said before, it is totally dependent on the demand-supply equation. But at the end of the day, the demand-supply equation is based on the needs of the hour. Infrastructure is big today, technology is big. So you're going to see a lot more of that sectors coming up, a lot more of students graduating, getting jobs, a lot more of pay increases because of the capabilities. So at the end of the day, I think it is fundamental that every single specialization, every single study that's done has a foundation study. That's the way I grew up. I grew up saying mechanical engineer. So mechanical engineering is the foundation. Then you go specialize with a master's, or you go into business with an MBA. Then even within MBA, you go into various streams. When you go into the streams, you're building yourself in the domains. As long as an individual is going out seeking for domain expertise, and at the exit of that tunnel, there is a nice job waiting for them, I think that domain starts increasing in relevance. And I think we have to tie the jobs to the domains. And I think we're looking at it very differently. We are looking at domains being created, are the jobs being created? And if the jobs and the domains, if jobs needed, jobs are more, domain expertise is less, it's going to increase the pay scale and it's going to bring a lot more people in. Classic example, data analytics. Today, everybody does a master's or undergrad in data analytics, which is not even a subject 5 years back. Maybe I'm wrong with 5, maybe it's only 3 years back. So why did data analytics become so big? Because of availability of data, computing power, storage, and all of a sudden you have many students wanting to, they see jobs available. So showing people the availability of jobs and what is at the end of the tunnel is what is going to make every single domain that much relevant. Back to you, folks.
Excellent point, super point. Just to carry forth this dialogue, why is this unfortunate situation there? Perhaps because we are too much driven by status as a society, which is why nurses or nursing, which is quite a respectable profession in many countries, in India is seen as a profession where you come in contact with body fluids and you have to spend time, odd hours with strange men, which is why nurses in the matrimonial market are handicapped. So you have made a great point. The point which you are making is, what will happen if you will drive the importance of these professions down by clobbering them with the status stick? These people will go abroad because there is a structured path there, and that is happening, Kishore, not only in the nursing sector, it is happening in the electrician, plumber space also. It is happening in the industrial worker space also, hospitality worker space also. So really we need to have a structured path, career path, which will help enhance the attractiveness of these vital areas. Also, we need to understand that in the higher levels of the value chain, why are there so many DRDO scientists who are resigning every year? Is it because that they are fatigued or whatever reasons they give, or they feel that a better structure or better path exists for them in the private sector? Because almost all of them are taking future employment after taking premature retirement in DRDO in the private sector. So great points you are making, that the money will eventually make the mayor go. And people like you will tell people that it doesn't matter if you are doing any manual work, as long as it is vital work, the money will come because the society depends on it. Great points. And also reliability engineering courses, along with aerospace and defense engineering courses, reliability engineering courses like which are there in the past, in the West, should come in. Siddharth, you were saying that there is a gentleman who would like to ask a question directly to the panel. Will you ask him to come in, please?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I'll just, we have two people. One is Ashish, who has raised his hand. Let me just allow him to talk.
Yes.
Hi, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Hi. Am I audible to you? Hello.
Yes, yes. Go ahead, Ashish.
So good evening to all of you, and thanks a lot, Mr. Pavan and the entire team of BlueCircle for having this particular session, and we are getting to learn a lot of things. My question is about the culture and the ecosystem of the entire aerospace and defense market. Let me tell you, I'm an aerospace and defense startup. We are developing some sort of defense products with along with HAL. Currently, I was taking a note of the discussion that has been made, and very beautifully Dr. Srinivasan has answered my question, but still I have some sort of doubt which I want to ask you that while we are talking about the culture of internship, which is booming nowadays in aerospace and defense market, the diversity and the inclusives of skill development and the sandwich program and the extended program is quite effective as of now in different other countries. While looking at the aerospace market in India, I must say the connection between the industry and the academics, it is not properly made. Okay, and while talking about, let me give you very small and short example that the students are not future ready for, in my point of view, because in this year for my product development internship, I I got almost around 800 applications, out of which I got only six people only, those who can work with me, six intern people I got out of 800 applications. So while giving about this particular example, let's say last year November 2020, Airbus has experimented the hydrogen powered engine. If the students are getting to learn about the jet engine and the aerospace development nowadays, and after almost around 10 years, and Airbus is planning for commercial development, or you can say putting that particular aircraft into the market by 2030. So the time when in 2030 people will get out of the college, they might not have that kind of idea about the hydrogen powered engines or that kind of thing. They might have the old generation, the gasoline powered engines. So are our students are really prepared for the future? While coming, this is my last point, while coming to the sandwich program, I think the DGCA, Director General of Civil Aviation, has done a very decisive steps in aircraft maintenance engineering. They have added this structure that while doing the course of aircraft maintenance engineering, the college will be tied up with some sort of MROs, CR147 organizations, to make the people understand how the aircraft maintenance environment works. So what kind of structure we can implement so that the students can get the experience in the aerospace industry while in the university? Also they can have their perspective towards the futuristic aspect of this development. So this is my question, how we can make the students for future ready.
Okay,
Yeah.
Ashish, I admire your enthusiasm. Thank you very much for your question.
Thanks, sir.
Any future questions, I request to be coded comprehensively in a telegrammatic language so that we can take more like that. But very good. Thank you very much for your enthusiasm. Dwarka, will you please answer Ashish's question?
I think Ashish made some questions and some great points as well, in the sense that, Ashish, you're absolutely right in the sense today, we are having that difficulty in terms of, people not being industry ready, and which means that the funnel, of people applying to getting to the job sometimes is 1:200, 1:300, as you rightly point out. So that's the challenge industry is going through, and that's why I talked about the industry academic relationship, which we need to really do. And I would probably stop there on that particular one, because I think otherwise I would probably be repeating. But the other point what you're making is very important in terms of how do we make people or our students future ready, right? So that's a great point, because this was one of the points we were discussing the other day, because look at the products which we are looking at in the future. Wing Commander was mentioning about drones. We now see vertical takeoff and landing. And after the COVID, so there was a question on sustainability by Aparna as well in the chat. So a process which we are looking at things has changed, that we are really putting a lot of emphasis on sustainability. Sustainability has accelerated a lot, and because of that, we see electric aircraft, we see zero emission, from Airbus, as you rightly said. We see a lot of future projects like space travel, or coming back to supersonic, the satellite as well. There's a lot of opportunities there. So in order really to look at, we need to look at what are the future skills which we are looking at. Broadly, let me classify them as sustainability related one, because that's an important part, whether we are talking about sustainability, sustainable aviation fuel in aerospace, or whether it is electric, hybrid, hydrogen related propulsion. That's going to be a big area of development we will see in aerospace, which we in the coming years. The other one is digitalization. So even though other industries, but aerospace industry is going through a big transformation in terms of digitalizations. We talk about digital twins, we talk about AR, VR, AI, ML, all those types of things. And how much are we actually integrating them? Because today, the digitalizations on these topics are still in universities, in the computer science, and that sort of programs. But can we integrate that in the hardcore mechanical, electrical, in terms of aerospace and other things as well? That's going to be an important part, because we need to look at these things as technologies which are really needed for the core industry itself. Last but not least is all the IoT, assembly simulations, factory of the future, all these types of skills as well. So in order to make our students industry ready, we need to work with industry, not only on the relationship, as I talked about in terms of the sandwich programs and the extended industry experience, but also in revamping the curriculum to really look at future courses rather than looking at what we were teaching them 25 years back. I'll stop there, Pavan, because there are lots of interesting questions in the chat as well.
Yes, lots of interesting
questions.
questions.
One thing, Pavan, out here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, very briefly, I just want to say why there has been a big ratio of people applying for A&D and there were very few selections, because we couldn't give in India good ecosystem for aerospace and defense skilling. And why is that? Because let's very understand very nicely that aviation and aerospace is a class apart, is a niche industry, and it's a very, very capital intensive training out here. Unlike any other sector, be it automobile, be it electronics, you cannot have the training infrastructure coming up at every college and ITI. So in that regard, what we couldn't do is there have been some clauses on the defense offsets and the commercial offsets, which we could never leverage upon. There always was, there's a like for the skill development, we always wanted some 30% technology transfer out here. In that, even the skilling, the center of excellence should have been coming out here. We could never leverage it properly, and so we have a very, very few center of excellence or the trainer academies or even for any kind of skilling out here. Because of this capital intensive nature, we have a very few skilling centers, and thus all these people who are applying to you, they don't have any skills on the A&D. So going forward, I would say let's plan that. We have, in fact, going forward in the direction for information for all. Again, I would say there are something called NSTIs. Above the ITIs one level, we have something called National Skill Training Institutes, which actually do the training of trainer programs for the ITI trainers. And there's some 36 NSTIs, women NSTIs and the male NSTIs or the co-ed NSTIs all around India, specific for one job or two industry sector focusing on. The NSTI at Bangalore have been designated last month by the Director General of Training for the aerospace and aviation skills. So to encourage the complete ecosystem of A&D, this skill will be driving the all this aerospace related skills for all the ITAs around. Just for information. Thank you.
Great, superb points, superb additions. on the capital intensive training nature of aerospace and defense skilling, I fully agree with you. I would also like to add, Rachit, and you know that, the technology possessive nature of the industry. There have been two companies, Boeing and Airbus, which have had a dominant market in this space. However, their technology possessiveness is changing. So in many ways today, and I started with this, today is a Sputnik moment. Sputnik moment, as you would remember, was the time when US woke up suddenly to the space war it was having and realizing that Russia has put its Sputnik spacecraft in the space before them. And this really woke up America. And there were a lot of competitive moves which were made. Even the migration of Indian scientists and engineers started then because they realized that we will have to bring in people from all over the world, the best minds. In 1957, this started. Today is again a Sputnik moment. What we spoke about in the changes which are happening in geopolitics and geocommerce, this will make the world come to us. And this will make these joint ventures, etc., which we already spoke of, which two of the leaders on our panel have led and are leading. These will be the norm for countries like India, which can geo-commercially align themselves well. So I hope that this dialogue continues. Many questions remain unanswered, but I'm sure you can reach out to the panelists on the app and continue your dialogue. It was a superb discussion. We wish there was more time. And the questions which were asked also were sharp. And of course, the panelists were really enlightened and they threw very fresh light on the matters which we spoke of. Our Prime Minister said, Veer Bhoge Vasundhara, which means the courageous will inherit the world. I added in another discussion on aerospace and defense, Chatur Bhoge Vasundhara. And now I would like to say, Saksham Bhoge Vasundhara, that if we will be skilled, we will inherit the world. So on that note, happy skilling and happy taking our country and this sector forward. Thank you very much. And thank you, dear panelists. It's back to Siddharth.
Thank you, team BlueCircle and all these fellow panelists. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Siddharth, would you be able to capture those questions somehow in the chat?
Yes, absolutely. We've captured.
All right, if you could, because some of the guys are in interesting questions as well. Just some of them I'd like to answer to these guys.
Certainly, which are the relevant ones.
All right. Thank you very much again, Siddharth, and thank you, Pavan, for doing a great job. With all these guys around the table. Thanks, Kishore. Great to see you, man. Thank you, Wing Commander, and finally, thank you, Dhiraj. Really, that is inspirational what you have just done. From the hospital, giving the message. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. See you. Bye. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Good day.
Bye. Take care.